Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness.
This is episode 74.
We hope our territorial acknowledgement improves allyship with Indigenous people within a reconciliation process. We're on the Haldeman Tract, located on the traditional territories of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We acknowledge the presence and traditional knowledge, laws, and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land. It's another week of Let's Be Well Together podcast. It's John Webster, and I'm here with Julie Wilson. Hi, Julie.
Hi, John.
What are we going to talk about today?
I saw this interesting post on social media, and it's talking about how to recognize anxiety in yourself and others. And I thought it was very timely and very important topic. I thought I'd raise it with you.
The thing about anxiety is it's always timely, because now that people are being a little more open about talking about how they're feeling and even mental health situations, you'd be hard pressed to find almost anybody who doesn't feel anxious at times.
Totally agree. Even when you're younger and you have to do a speech or something like that in front of people, right? There's anxiety. But I think the reason why I said timely was that we've just gone through a really difficult situation or challenging few years. And I think it's given people the opportunity to really take a look at themselves and self-reflect, notice things about themselves that otherwise they may not have, being alone, being confined in confined spaces. I think you've been able to really take a look at yourself and feel things and see things. And the silver lining of COVID, I think, was that we have started to talk about these things a bit more.
I think I agree with the last point. Not sure I agree with the rest. I mean, that maybe was your experience, but I'm not sure that everybody took a lot of time during COVID to self-reflect.
Some might have, yeah.
But I definitely think that there was lots of reasons it caused anxiety, and I definitely think that people are being more open about talking these things. And, frankly, I hope our podcast is helping people do that too. I'm not exactly sure. Normally we'll say it's from Instagram and where it came from. We're not exactly sure. We have a picture. It does say Tutor Doctor on it, so maybe that was a source. And initially I wasn't going to read through them, but I'm just a little concerned that if we don't read through them, that we'll not cover them all. So what if we did this? What if you read through these ones? No one can see what I'm pointing to but Julie. And then I'll read through these ones, and then we'll talk about a few of them. So if you could just read those ones.
They're talking about ways how to recognize anxiety. Some of them are overthinking, memory issues, insomnia, rapid heartbeat, headaches, trouble breathing, constant worrying, procrastination.
And then there's trouble in concentration, lack of patience, needing reassurance, panic attacks, stomach issues, sweating, avoidance. For different people, it could be all of these or some of these.
And I think we can take a look at both ourselves and members of your team as well. A lot of this is how to take a look at this yourself, but members of your team or family or friends around you, if they're struggling, some of these signs you may be able to recognize that, maybe they're going through a hard time right now, and you may just want to reach out and say, how are you doing? And have a conversation, or just spend time listening to them, because they may complain about stomach issues and about having a lot of headaches lately, which would then open up the conversation and lead you to say, hey, what's going on these days? Yeah. Or what's going on at home, or if they have kids, just sort of probe, or leave it open for them to turn around and know that you're interested in them and that you're aware of what's going on, and leave it open for them to reach out to you if they want to talk.
One of the things that's kind of tricky, so to be clear, we're not saying as any kind of medical practitioners that this is a diagnosis.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
It's something we don't do. It's something we avoid. But, I've seen this kind of dynamic at play, and it's tricky where people are like, oh, my friend isn't doing well. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a social worker. I'm not a doctor. I better not say anything. I don't want to mess it up. A lot of times it seems like people have this like split where either you don't talk about this kind of stuff at all, or you need some kind of professional to do it. In reality, I really think that that's a really small percentage of the time. So for sure, one of the things we always say on our show, and we'll say again, is if you feel like you need to talk to someone, you should do that.
100%.
Having said that, it doesn't necessarily always have to be straight to a medical professional of some sort. So for example, if I ever feel like I need to consult with a psychiatrist or a social worker or something of that nature, I hope that I am capable of doing that, because it's really challenging to do that, and I hope that I can find it in myself. But for the most part, when I feel any of these symptoms and I feel like I've realized I am anxious, sometimes I'll even know what the source of the anxiety is, I need to speak with Sheila, right? Or a friend.
Exactly.
Somebody I can chat with, somebody who will listen to me. And I don't think we should be afraid to talk to each other about this kind of stuff, just on a personal level.
I totally agree. And even just talking about, like, just even you and I here talking about this and learning some of the symptoms, like I've learned, that there are things, procrastination. I didn't know if I would have put that down in that category, but it's interesting to take a look at that and to even recognize that in others that, maybe this is something, and just to keep an eye out that, if they're putting off things, if they're putting off, oh, maybe something's going on, right?
Well, what's interesting, Julie, is you keep turning this to other people. You keep saying,
Here we go.
You keep saying, this says, what this post says is how to recognize anxiety in yourself in big capital letters, and in smaller letters it says in others. But you want to keep going to others. What about yourself?
So
I'm not telling you to self-diagnose.
Oh, no, exactly. No. I definitely see some of these things at different times, when your workload is up, and I know I get that headache, and I'm like, okay, time to drink some water, time to step back, take a little break, go for a walk, and I do feel better after.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't have thought avoidance. I wouldn't have thought of that. But when I do think of it, now that I see it on the list, a lot of times when I'm avoiding things, it's specifically because I'm anxious. And I'll give you an example. So I do lots of different things in my job. Mm-hmm. And it's incredible how many new situations come up. Like it's just, you've been doing the same.
Yes. You'd think that you would never see anything new, right?
And yet every day, every week, I see something new. And especially if it's something where procedurally I don't know how to address it yet, I have to learn how to deal with it procedurally, I tend to avoid it because that creates anxiety in me, the not knowing of how to deal with it, thinking I might mess it up. So yeah, it is interesting to hear these points.
It's so true. I can see that in myself a little bit, that you do. You put it off, or you make some excuse that, oh, I can't get to it, because it does cause that anxiety and learning new things. I think you said that. I think that causes anxiety in a lot of individuals, a new challenge, learning new tools, learning new systems. That causes a lot of anxiety. And, I can see that in myself as well, that whole avoidance. That's an interesting one.
And some of them, they kind of build on each other too. Essentially, one of our messages is take time to introspect, take time to think about how you're doing, do check-ins once in a while. And, so it's not surprising if you're constantly worrying, which is one of the items on the list, that you end up with insomnia, which is another one, which you can imagine leads to lack of patience. In other words, irritability, right? So all of these things are building on each other. And if there's any way you can stop and say, wait a minute, I'm recognizing signs of anxiety. What can I do? And at least you can recognize it and maybe try and do something. And maybe it's talking to someone, maybe it's mindfulness exercises. But if you're not recognizing that it's anxiety that's doing these things, the symptoms might not only continue, but build up on each other. And
I think for others, when you're looking at, here I go again, talking about others, but
my friend, this happened to my friend.
So, but being open to listen, I think listening is huge in this space of taking the time. So, and if someone is reaching out to you, the importance of just stepping back and listening. You might not have a solution, you might not have an answer, but they're just sometimes listening.
Definitely. Like, I think what you're saying is you're imagining a scenario where somebody else either recognizes that they're anxious or they're just having these symptoms and want to talk to somebody. And if they reach out to you, you should take a minute to stop and recognize that it's important that you listen, that they are reaching out. Because we say you should reach out to people. So if someone actually does, you should be there for them.
Exactly.
And one thing, by the way, that Sammy said at one point that I keep coming back to that I think is a great point is if somebody like that does reach out to you, make sure you're in the right frame of mind.
Oh,
right. So
exactly.
And if you're not, we talked about some ways to deal with it. Maybe to say, I want to talk to you. I want to, but I just need a little time. Or one kind of brainstorm concept we came up with was, look, I'm not in a great place myself. Why don't we just go for a walk together?
Oh, John, I love that.
And then maybe there's not a lot of talking, but you're just being with each other. And who knows, maybe during the walk or after the walk, you'll both be in a better frame of mind to talk about the things that are affecting you.
I love that idea. I've got to remember that one. That's fantastic.
Yeah, like hopefully it doesn't happen. Hopefully you're in a good frame of mind if anyone reaches out to you. But I think the danger area is if you're not, like, it could make you dismissive or...
We're not always 100% of the time,
or
right?
not hear what they're trying to say or just... Anyway, no, I think it's a good idea too.
I love that.
Guests are giving their time. Expanding our minds.
Today's interview is in the category of economic wellness, and we welcome back real estate agent Lynne MacDonald from KW House Hunters. It's our second interview about house transactions, and today I'm going to ask Lynne introductory info for home sellers. Welcome back, Lynne.
Hi.
So Lynne MacDonald is a residential real estate agent who serves Waterloo Region, Wellington, Perth, and Oxford counties. She's been licensed for 10 years. She's with KW House Hunter Group and a RE/MAX Hall of Fame recipient. Lynne is an agent for Indwell, which supports vulnerable adults dealing with mental health issues. She's married with 2 grown kids and has lived in Waterloo Region for 35 years. And in today's chat, we're not providing advice. Make sure if you're doing a house transaction, you meet with professionals, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, lawyers if necessary. Today, we're having a conversation about our experiences. But before I turn to the topic, I can't help but just tell people. So we're doing 2 interviews today. Mm-hmm. And you checked your messages after the first interview.
Yes.
And you just found out that some buyers who you've been helping, who've been trying to get a house for a while, multiple efforts.
Yes.
You just literally found out the deal went through.
They got it. Yes.
You got to call them and tell them the good news. So I can't help but ask, how'd that feel?
It's really exciting. It's because I had to make the call saying, I'm so sorry. They went with another offer. They can't remember how many. I think it was 10 times. So this was a great phone call. And when she answered the phone, she had me on speaker and I said, I have been waiting a very long time to make this phone call. So yeah, super exciting. They're so happy. And it's a very exciting part of our job.
Yeah. It must be a rush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's turn from the buying process to the selling process.
Okay.
And like we said last time, we only have 15 minutes, so we can't go over all the points you would provide to sellers.
Yep.
In a typical meeting, but we can hit some points at high level. So let me start by just asking, what's the process you have when you start working with a seller?
So when people call us to, that they want to list their home, the first question we ask is why?
Okay.
Why are you selling? And sometimes it's that they heard their neighbor got this incredible price and they think that they should do that. Maybe they're moving, they've, got a new job, they're relocating. And then sometimes it's not for, nice reasons. Maybe it's an estate sale, someone's passed away, maybe it's a marital breakdown. So, that sort of helps us direct how we're going to proceed with the sale of the property.
Interesting. I wouldn't have thought that. Do you ever hear something and you're like, that doesn't feel like the right fit?
all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the longer you are in real estate, the more you get to choose who you work with and who you don't work with. And so I like to really connect with my clients, and not everybody does. And it's a very personal relationship. You work together, you're together a lot for sometimes a long period of time. So you really have to sort of build a relationship with them, and there's a lot of trust involved. It goes both ways. They have to trust me, and I have to trust that they're going to, sort of listen to the advice that I'm giving them. And sometimes it's just not the right fit.
Okay, so let's imagine that you get a phone call.
Yeah.
So you ask that question, you get a good feel, and so you're like, you want to work with these people. So
Yes.
then what happens next?
So the first thing is to go over to the house. You go over to the home, and then you sort of, just like you would with a buyer, except you're meeting with them in the house. You usually sit down, have a chat, and then discuss again the why. And then they show you around the house, and then you get back to discussing, the market, what's going on. We usually have a little bit of prep work done, sort of sales in their neighborhood, maybe on their street or in their complex, if it's a condominium, whatever it is. And we have a general idea of what the selling price could be, because that's always one of their first questions. Then we start discussing sort of the pluses and minuses of their house compared to some other ones that have sold. And then we get into the nitty-gritty of what they need to do to prepare their house. What's their timeline? And how ready are they emotionally and physically? And what we need to do to get the house prepared for market.
I've had, regrettably, a couple situations. I've had different situations selling a house, and one of them I, in retrospect, made a mistake because the agent was saying, this is what I think you should list it for, and I couldn't get there. So it ended up getting listed higher.
Okay.
And that created problems.
Right.
And so now I've learned my lesson. So
right.
Now, like recently, I had a different situation. This was with a kind of a long-term rental for our place up in Collingwood. And the agent said, John, things have changed. Prices have gone down a bit. He told me what he thought it should be. And he was expecting me to do that kind of resistance, I guess, that a lot of people do. But I actually said, no, I've gone down that road before. You know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I went with it and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
How do you handle that when the buyers, you can tell the resistance is there and you're having a hard time getting through?
Well, I think that, it's funny. Buyers always think a house is worth less than a seller thinks it is. And a seller always thinks it's worth more than a buyer does, So the numbers don't lie. We don't pull the numbers out of the air. We go through the comps. We have a general idea of the range that it would sell for. We can't factor in for people's emotions. They really want to live on that street. They want their kids to go to that school. They want a house that has a green front door. I don't know, but you can't factor that in. So, I try to tend to err on the side of caution on value and let them be pleasantly surprised than disappointed. But you have to really have that heart-to-heart conversation with them. And that's another thing that if they're not listening to you, then maybe that's not a good fit either.
Yeah, so I'll just throw it out there for listeners who are working with an agent, having gone through the experience and being a bit stubborn and it didn't work out. I now leave the profession to the professionals.
Right.
So what are some of the things that sellers may not know about or appreciate or be surprised about when you talk to them?
I think a lot of people think that we're going to walk in and say they have to completely renovate their house to sell it, or, do thousands and thousands of dollars in upgrades or things like that. And personally, I don't feel like if you're going to see a return on it in the end, that it's really something that you should do. Because when we're walking through a house with buyers, if it's not to their taste, they don't see the value in it. It could be a brand new floor, but if they hate it, they're not going to give you any more money for it because they don't like it. They feel like they're going to have to replace it.
It's a really good point, because for us, we were actually, having watched all these shows about buying a house and renovating, that was kind of our little dream, that we were going to find a place that we could renovate. And we did look at 2 or 3 houses that were the right structure, the right fit, but they had just renovated.
Right.
And we thought, well,
And it's not what you would have
It's
done.
not what we want.
Right.
But we're not going to buy it now because it's extra cost and it's higher price. It's a really good point.
Yeah. So for us, mostly for me, when I go through, it's little things that sort of small maintenance items that, make sure it sounds really silly, but replace all your light bulbs if they're burnt out. Just things like that. Really cleaning and decluttering is actually the biggest thing. There's something that people would really find offensive, maybe paint a wall or do something like that, but we really don't suggest too much in terms of renovating for prepping, just decluttering, cleaning, and then we offer staging for all of our clients. So we have a warehouse full of furniture, accessories. I've taken my staging course. So, sometimes it's just simply rearranging some furniture, lightening things up. No one ever says that a house is too light, but they will comment if it's too dark. So lighten it up.
Is that the same thing with furniture, that it's better to have less than more?
Absolutely. So think back to when builders had model homes. We don't have them so much anymore. And you walked in and it was sexy and you imagined yourself living there drinking wine and there was no shoes in the closet. There was no dressers. There was no backpacks. All the clutter was gone, and no one ever actually lives like that. It's pretty unattainable. However, you have to give that you could
right.
live like that. And you have to, that's what sort of attracts buyers' emotions. So that's what you're doing as a seller. That's why you stage properties. You stage them. No one has white bedding and, but it brightens it up in pictures and it looks nicer and brighter.
A quick anecdote from me was both in our son's house, we were helping him get ready for renting, and in our place that we got, all we changed was the doorknobs, the little stoppers, like the door stoppers, and the hinges on the doors, and just changing those to like a kind of brushed nickel from the old. You could tell that they were
brass.
50 years old. It made a big difference too.
Yeah, and it
was
doesn't,
inexpensive.
It doesn't have to be big things. People
Right.
think you have to change all your countertops or all your flooring. Sometimes it's just it's small things. Same with bedrooms. A lot of times we just go in, we have white bedding, and we usually have a pop of color. We put this white, bedding on. We coordinate with some throws, and it can really transform the room. So it doesn't take a lot to prep. The other thing I learned when I took a staging course was to take a picture of the room and then look at the picture, because your eye is used to the things that are cluttering the room, but when you look at the picture, you see them clearer.
Interesting.
So I do that with people because, there's a pile of newspapers that's been in your living room for 4 months. You stop seeing it. But when I show you a picture of that room, what do you see? Oh, I see a pile of newspapers sitting beside the chair.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah. So
I like the white too, because that's kind of our concept on our main floor. We have a gray but almost white walls.
Right.
And that means the color pops from furniture,
absolutely,
painting or whatever it is.
And it looks really nice in pictures.
True.
Yeah. And that's what you're doing. The pictures, so we always have professional photos done. We do a floor plan with an eye guide, which is the 360 view of all the rooms. The pictures are the first thing that someone, attracts someone to your house. So you want to make sure that they look good and they want to come and see it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you about staging, but it seemed, I think we've pretty much covered. Was there anything else you wanted to say about staging?
The other thing about staging is that empty rooms seem smaller than rooms with furniture. And I know that sounds weird. Yeah. So we try to, if possible, stage our vacant homes because it does make the rooms seem bigger. I showed a condo the other day and it's empty. And my client stood there going, I don't think we can fit a bed in here. Then we went to the identical condo down the hall, which had a queen size bed in, and they were like, oh, you can get a bed in here. So yeah, it really does make the room seem bigger, which I know sounds weird.
I know, but when we renovated our place, I walked in after they stripped everything, and I'm like, this place is tiny.
Tiny, yeah.
And then they put everything in. I'm like, wow, this place is awesome.
How is that kitchen going to fit in this small space? Yeah.
So another thing I wanted to ask too, I know we're still in a buyer's market, but
seller's market.
Sorry, a seller's market, not a buyer's market.
Yeah.
But, when I was selling houses, we weren't in that. So there's the issue of expectations and getting offers below listing and all that stuff. Are we getting anywhere close to that yet? Or are we still in our region, we're still in a seller's market?
We're still in a seller's market. We're still seeing houses, for the most part, listing lower to attract multiple offers and then selling over asking price. And as much as people think that, agents love that, we don't really. However, everybody has to play the game or nobody plays the game, because as a seller, you don't see the advantage if you don't do it. Now, there's some price points, higher price points, you're not going to do that because your pool of buyers is limited. But buyers have almost become conditioned to knowing that they're going to have to compete and they're going to have to pay over asking. And then the flip side of that is tempering sellers' expectations that just because that's happening kind of in general doesn't mean it will happen for your property.
To me, it's pretty frustrating, actually. Like, I watch what happens, and it adds such a degree of uncertainty to the process.
Absolutely.
And so much frustration, especially to young people I know who are looking for houses. It's sad to see. I honestly hope someday that there's a way to get past that. We get back
to more of a balanced market.
But right now, we're not there.
No, we're not yet. We're low in inventory. So again, for sellers, if they have a good product that's been prepped and priced properly, they'll do well, because there isn't, it's the law of supply and demand.
Okay, well, look, we're burning through our time. It's crazy how fast it goes. Maybe I can get you back someday, because so far we've talked about kind of generic how we do stuff, but I feel like just in terms of what we're just talking about, there's a lot of stress and emotional sides to this, experiences and things that affect people's mental well-being.
Absolutely.
And economic well-being. So maybe it's somewhere down the road, I can have you back and we can talk about some of those subjects.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, but we're back to the end. And as you know, we ask the same question of every guest. Mm-hmm. It's in a context where we all have areas of wellness that are important to us, but not enough time to focus on all of them at any given time. So it's essentially a mini wellness check-in. Are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, can you think of even one thing you can do to foster wellness in that area?
So for me, I spend a lot of time in my car. I don't plan my meals properly. Generally, if it doesn't fit in the cup holder, it's probably not going to be eaten.
Oh, no.
So a lot of smoothies, prepping, because then my energy gets low and then I get distracted, and then, you're not fueling your body. So that would be something that I should probably focus more attention on, or have snacks stashed everywhere or something.
It's funny you say fuel, because I kind of went through this whole process and was out of shape, got in shape. And the best I was eating was when I really had that mentality that I'm fueling my body.
Right.
Because then that meant I wanted the best fuel, and I didn't want too much. But I've kind of lost sight of that myself, and I'm wandering to snacking and junk food, and I usually eat natural good stuff, but I got to get back to that too. So I'm really glad you used that word fuel.
Yeah.
I need one thing to kickstart me back, and I don't know what it's going to be, but I keep getting close, and maybe that's it.
Yeah. Especially when you spend a lot of time driving and you're in and out of, houses and cars and everything, and a drive-through is easy. So even for me, a small change is I try to go to a grocery store and get like those prepared salads, or like they have veggies and dip or something like that kind of is just one step up from a burger.
Okay. Well, hopefully you can get back to a little more natural food and fuel. And thanks again so much for doing a couple interviews in one day.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Cameron, and welcome to another installment of the Adventures of the Starving Artist. So I've been checking out ChatGPT a little bit this week. For the uninitiated, it's a large language model, so I'm using finger quotes here, AI. It's kind of not, but that's okay. And what it does is it takes a text prompt from the user, breaks down what it is the user's trying to say, crafts a response that it thinks is appropriate, and sends it back over. And on it goes. Now, I'm simplifying that very, very much so. Remember, it's not actually thinking. It's basically manipulating data into numbers and playing with it like that. However, I decided to see if this thing could come up with a chord progression that's half decent. Remembering that it's been trained on all kinds of data from anything you can find on the internet, basically, but also very high quality stuff, like it knows its stuff. If you ask it about music theory, for example, it'll give you an almost encyclopedia-style response breaking stuff down. And so I asked it for a simple 4-chord jazzy chord progression that I could loop. And what it gave me was like dead simple. 1-6-2-5 in the key of C, which is C major, A minor, D minor, and G major. And by itself, that's really plain Jane. It sounds like this. So, it's fine. It's nothing we haven't heard before. It's definitely nothing to write home about. And I doubt it'll be picking up a Grammy anytime soon. And so I asked it, I said, okay, thanks. And then I said, could you please make it jazzier and add some tensions? So here's what it came up with this time. This is D minor 7, G7 sharp 11, C major 9, and F major 13. This is very much more my speed. It sounds like this. So, still not the world's most sophisticated, groundbreaking piece of music, but considering it was 2 quick prompts from me into this machinery, or the software, I should say, is pretty impressive stuff. If I really needed to, I'm sure I could ask it to break down each individual chord and specifically how they wanted to spell it, but given just the chord symbols, of course I know what I'm doing there, so that's not so hard. And I think it's kind of neat to be able to throw an idea off this thing, bring it to life quickly on my end, and then determine whether or not it actually sounds half decent. Will I use this professionally in my own writing? I really doubt it. Will I use it to explore and check out the technology and see what comes out? Probably. For now, though, that's all I've got. I encourage you to check out ChatGPT as well. Of course, not just for music, for all kinds of stuff. But for today, that's where we're going to roll with it. If anything awesome comes out of it musically, I'll make sure to bring you in on it next time. But for now, I'm Cameron. Thank you very much for listening. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
We love our listeners and thanks for joining us. Please help spread the word about Let's Be Well Together podcast. Follow us and rate us on Spotify, Apple, Google, or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram at lets.be.well.together and let your friends know about us.
Move that body like we're meant to do.
Hello, everyone. It's Elise Seifert here with Julie Wilson.
Hi, Elise. How are you?
I'm doing great, Julie. I was actually just looking at an article about summer workout activities.
How appropriate. Timing couldn't be better.
Right now that the nice weather is here, it's so nice to think about outdoor activities that you can do. So this article was 10 different activities to mix up your summer workout routine, and it was posted on Ace Fitness.
I like it.
Let's look at some of these activities and see if any of them interest you. Our first activity is gardening, swimming, hiking, yard yoga, paddleboarding, kayaking, disc golf, cycling, tossing a ball, and finally meditation. So, Julie, I was wondering if any of those activities are something you might be trying this summer.
100% I'm going to be trying some of those, and I've already started gardening.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you grow any vegetables or mostly plants, flowers?
I will tell you, I have a perennial garden.
Okay.
The time it takes to plant all those annual flowers, well, they are beautiful. Just in terms of maintenance, I'm very much a perennial garden, but you asked about vegetables, and I do have 2 boxes that my son built for me. And so I have few vegetables. So this year I have radish, tomatoes, carrots, and for my son who insists, although I will see how it goes, I've got I planted some potatoes. So
Ooh.
just a couple. We're going to try. This will be a trial and error. So gardening, started it. Love gardening.
A great way to get outside and just be active. It requires a lot more activity than you would think.
Oh, it's hard. On the weekend, I spent Saturday, and by Saturday evening, I was exhausted. Do you garden?
I have a garden as well of plants that are perennials, but I also have a vegetable garden that my husband and I like to use. So we have cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, and then a variety of different herbs.
Herb gardens. Oh,
Yes.
fantastic. So even when you're out walking, if you've got an herb garden, just grabbing the leaves of something like lemon balm or mint. Oh, I love it. You were asking about some of the other activities. Swimming. I love swimming. It has to be very hot for me to go swimming, but
Fair.
I do love swimming. Hiking. We do this as a family, and there are some fantastic areas in the Milton area. Great places to hike.
Beautiful. I have actually been to some of those locations as we lived close to Milton in Campbellville.
Oh, so you're familiar with them. Yeah.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah.
We're so
I know.
lucky to have so many beautiful spots in Ontario, really, to go hiking.
Right? Yard yoga. I love that title. I haven't done yoga recently. I used to, but yard yoga sounds fun, and I like that title.
Right? It sounds great. I know I used to host a yoga class in a park behind my parents' house when I was living there through college. And that was a lot of fun just to do it outside and listen to the birds chirping. It just really made you more present, I thought.
You should start that again. I could come and join.
Yeah, that'd be fabulous.
Traveling to Owen Sound.
Yeah.
So paddleboarding, you and I were just chit-chatting a little bit about that. And I started paddleboarding with a girlfriend during COVID.
Nice.
Love it. I'm on a mission now to get my own paddleboard.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. I've heard of these inflatable paddle boards that are actually pretty sturdy, really sturdy, but more portable. So that's something interesting to look at.
No, I would definitely get an inflatable because then, wherever I go, it's much easier to manipulate that and carry it. You have to have the right mechanisms to take it on your car if you've got one of the hard paddle boards, which leads me to the next one you had mentioned, because my son has a kayak. So I don't know.
Oh,
My
nice.
son has a kayak plus my other son has a canoe. So I'm not sure if I could then put a paddleboard on top.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. So inflatable paddleboard would probably be the way to go. But kayaking, I think it's so relaxing. I don't know. Have you tried kayaking?
I love kayaking. I know I went to a camp up in Algonquin Park when I was a kid, and kayaking was probably my favorite activity to do on the lakes. It's so relaxing. I do like the independent kayaking. I don't know why. I just like being able to be on my own and go out where I'd like to and just enjoy the calm of the water.
It's that calm of the water, and just sometimes pausing when you're kayaking and just feeling the flow of the water, listening to the sounds. Oh, yes. Love it. I'm with you on that. And then meditation, of course, outside meditation, by the lake, by an ocean, right?
There's nothing like outdoor meditation.
Yes. Those were some really good suggestions. I like that list.
Me too. So hopefully everyone can find some ways to get active this summer.
There's a thought. Popped up while running.
Those of us who struggle with our weight, we often repeat the same thing in that somehow over time we put on a bunch of weight and then we just sit there and we're like, what happened? How did I get here? How did I let myself get to this position again? What in the world? I kept telling myself I won't let this happen again. If I get to a place I want to be, as soon as I gain, say, 5 pounds or 10 pounds, then I'm really going to put the brakes on and really start eating healthy again. And somehow you put on 20 pounds, 30 pounds, whatever it happens to be. And it's easy to wallow. It's easy to sit there and be like, how did I let myself get into this position? What an idiot. So the good news is I'm getting better at not doing that. I started doing that recently. And then I was thinking about positive affirmations. We talked about those on earlier shows. And I came up with a positive affirmation. Maybe it's already out there, but it's something that kind of I came up with and I've been focusing on, and it really helped me feel better those few days where it was kind of front of mind and really weighing on me. And so my new positive affirmation is, I can't change the past, but I can make improvements starting today. And that's what I've been telling myself. I can't change the past, but I can make improvements starting today. And that will make a difference. So there you have it, my new positive affirmation. I can't change the past, but I can make improvements starting today. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. So let me say, flip side of the coin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Flip Side of the Coin with Elise Seifert and Stephen Seifert.
Hello.
Today, Stephen, we're here to talk about our love of board games.
That's right. Board games are something that we share, and I don't know if that's because my passion, I forced you to do it, or if that was something that you already had in you.
I think I've always liked board games growing up. I remember spending weeks at the cottage where we would bust out the traditional board games, the Yahtzees, Monopolies, and it was always something that I really enjoyed, and I think you did as well as a child.
Absolutely. I remember, particularly with Monopoly, I remember setting up a 3 or 4 game setup with just myself. So I would roll everything, move everything around, and keep track of the different properties and how much money everybody had.
And would you put yourself into a different mindset for each person? I
think you kind of have to, right?
Yeah. Okay. So you're like playing these different parts.
You can't show favoritism to any one person. You have to look for what the most optimal move of that person. So 9-year-old me was saying, top hat, you have just as much right to win as race car does.
Amazing. So we're both very passionate about board games. And I think that helps to fuel our relationship. It helps us to have something to share together. And I also find it's a great way to challenge myself intellectually with the various board games that we play.
Yeah, that's right. And we got started with one that a lot of people get started in, Settlers of Catan, which is now just known as Catan.
That's right.
We were in love with it so much that we used to joke about getting the shakes when we didn't play it for too long. We had that dice hand that was just ready to roll. And I even have a really nice wooden Catan board that is just absolutely beautiful.
Yes, and it wasn't even us who sought out that game. In fact, a friend of ours, when we were living in South Korea, he was really passionate about the idea of us playing it. So he kind of pushed us to play it. And ultimately, we ended up being the two who absolutely loved it.
Yeah, he fell off that game pretty quickly. He played it a handful of times, and then he said, you know what? This isn't for me. And we were okay with that because we just kept playing. But one of the downsides is that it is a 3 to 4 player game. So you have to have at least 3 players. But the two of us, well, we can't magically make a third, except we did.
We did.
So we had a player named Neutral that, just like I did when I was that 9-year-old playing Monopoly, they were a separate player that we were both being parts of, and they would only do moves that would benefit them the most.
That's right. And occasionally Neutral won.
Neutral would win.
That's right. And that's really what kicked off our love of board games. But I don't think we really got passionate about board games again until the pandemic.
That's right. So one of the first games that we got, we just happened to purchase it right at the start of the pandemic, was Villainous. So it's if you haven't played it, it is a Disney board game where it's various villains. And in this one, you are all competing to see who can be the most villainous, as in who can accomplish their plots and win.
That's right. And this game is very unique because each player has a different end goal. So not everyone's trying to get, let's say, the most points. Everyone has a different goal that they have to achieve. So our minds were kind of blown when we first started playing this game. And we actually made a March Madness bracket.
That's right. And we did. We played it so much that we kind of burned ourselves out of that a bit.
We did, unfortunately. And it also helped us to learn the kind of games that we'd like to look for in the future. I think it helped us to learn there are so many types of board games out there. And then we also learned that we probably prefer the cooperative games when we're playing ourselves versus the competitive games like Villainous.
Yeah, so if you're interested in board games, you've probably played a lot of competitive board games such as Sorry and Clue and Monopoly, but there's a whole world of board games out there where you are on the same side. You're both competing for that same end goal, and that is one of the mechanics that we look for.
That's right. And we also look for a lot of board games that just can play maybe just 2 players or 2 to 5 players. So it was really surprising to me to find out that there are a lot of board games you can play with just 2 people. So when we're building our board game library, we try to make sure that we have games that we can play with just the 2 of us, because it is something that we love to do together and it fuels our relationship.
And it's something that I hope continues to fuel our relationship.
Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way. It's sign-off time. It's John here with Sheila and Elise.
Hi.
Hello.
Just got a couple quick things. So one, I'm still doing my weight training and I'm still feeling fantastic. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I even think it might be helping me when I'm running. It's too early to tell, but I'm hoping for good things. On the weekend, we had the interment of my dad's ashes. So for listeners who might remember, he passed away on November 29th. And for lots of reasons, my mom decided to wait. So that happened on Saturday. Couple things. One thing, you go to something like that and you think you're ready for things, but we didn't think about something that happened, which was mosquitoes.
Yeah, but it wasn't just, a few mosquitoes. We were literally attacked by mosquitoes.
Yeah, it just felt when we were getting there, we got there early before the priest came. So we had time to mill about and we realized we're not going to make it through this with this many mosquitoes.
No.
So thankfully, Jeremy had mosquito repellent in his car, so we all sprayed it and it worked. But I just thought, can you imagine ruining an internment because mosquitoes, something just so unexpected.
Yeah.
But the one thing I did want to say about it is my mom thought it would be a good idea if everybody took a handful of dirt and threw it after the ashes were lowered into the grave. I really did feel actually that created some closure. I thought it was a good idea. It's something I'm going to remember, that's kind of a good way to have closure. So how about you, Elise? How was your week?
My week was great, and I'm looking forward to this week because it's my last week of school before summer. Woohoo!
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Anyways, keep going, Elise.
That's right. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to right now. And I feel like I'm crawling my way to the finish line, but we're getting there slowly. And we've been doing some kind of summary things. So we had our first dip in Lake Huron this past week, and it was freezing.
I bet.
It was so cold. One of my coworkers had said, I went in a couple days ago and it was really lovely. I just walked right in. So I was kind of expecting it to be lovely, and it was still cold. Yeah.
Was this Sauble Beach that you went into, or Kelso?
Yes.
Sauble
we
Beach.
went in at Sauble.
Okay.
But hopefully the warm weather gets that water all warmed up, because I'm pretty excited to do lots of swimming this summer. And we also ate the first vegetables, I guess, from our veggie garden. We had green onions today.
Wow.
So that was pretty exciting. So it's kind of feeling like a summery type of week. How about you, Sheila?
Well, we had a really busy week this week. On Monday, we saw the Blackberry movie. John's work had an event, and so they were hosting that, and that was really interesting. It was just really cool to see Kitchener-Waterloo, on the big screen, and some of the stuff about Blackberry.
For listeners who are from far away, Blackberry was a big successful company from Waterloo. We're in Waterloo. We watched the Blackberry movie in Waterloo, and we even had one of the first employees come and give us a few words, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, because he kind of just said how it was compared to reality. So that was really interesting. So that was on Monday. And then, of course, on Friday, not of course, but we had other, working, and I went to the gym, so I was really happy because that was something I really wanted to get to because I haven't been there for a while. And on Friday, we went to see Rent at Stratford.
Oh, I forgot about that. How could I forget that?
I don't know. So I was excited because John and I used to be members at Stratford, and Stratford is not very far from us, about 45 minutes.
And for people who are out of town, Stratford has a lot of Shakespeare. They have kind of an imitation of the Festival Theatre. It's just absolutely beautiful. They have other places, and they put on incredible performances. Incredible ones.
Yeah, so it was really awesome to be back in the theater and see a show and see all the people. And the show itself was fabulous and very diverse. I was really impressed that, everyone wasn't, a certain size. It was really interesting and really, really amazing. So we did that on Friday. And then Elise and Stephen came Friday night for the interment on Saturday. So on Friday night, we had almost like a family get together because everyone was there, all us kids, and we played games and stuff. So that was fun. On Saturday, we had like a pool party. And Sunday, I had a staff party. So we've been really busy just hosting parties all weekend. So that is what's going on with me. And so now we've got to try and eat all the leftovers.
But also eat healthy.
So we're trying to eat healthy, but, eat all the leftovers and try not to throw away food because I hate wasting food. So that will be our goal this week. That's all that's new with me.
Okay, great. We hope everyone enjoyed the show, and we hope you can all come back and join us again next week.
That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.